Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you very much for spending this time with me. And of course, we have our hero in the control room, Mademoiselle Shannon. How are thou doing?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I am great. I heard, in as much as it's sunny and hot in Houston, I heard you actually came through a storm to get here.
I did. It was raining mighty hard over in Pearland. Just a scattered thunderstorm, it seemed like, but it disappeared when I came in the north.
Well, you know what I think, Shannon? I think that cloud was following you just to make sure that you had you keep your car cool and everything cool while you were coming in so you didn't have to feel all this heat. That's what happened.
Wow. I really
must be special.
I hope the world is on my side. I don't know.
I think that's what it's all about. So how was your week?
It's been great. It's been great here at the station.
Well, you've been working pretty hard. I heard you had a whole lot going on. So that's great to know, my dear. That's great to know. But folks, listen, we're going to have a great show. Before I forget, this is KPFT 90.1 FM. Please do remember it's also a call-in show, and on this subject, I would really love to hear from you, all of you. I don't care what side of the debate you're on, what side of the discussion you're on. I really want to hear from you because it's only through these discussions that people's minds are changed. It's only through these discussions that we can actually make changes in the country without folks just being polarized. I mean, it doesn't matter, so I do want to hear from you. Our number is 713-526-5738. Again, our number is 713-526-5738. Please do remember to call in. The subject of the day, as soon as I can get my pad back on, is actually, what did I title? What I'm going to talk about today is pretty simple. You know, sometimes reality is not all that real. You know, I think there's been a lot of people think there's an escalation in, there's like a new police brutality. That is unlikely, though. Many have been complaining about these incidences for decades. The difference is that there are now what? Cameras. There are cameras out there that can see things. So we don't have to depend on he says, she says. Why are many so upset? For the first time, it's in your face. It is on the news. Most importantly, many of what is seen is but police being a reflection of society. Who knows? Let's talk about it. What do you think? Let's talk about it. Do you think I'm right? Let's talk about it. Folks, please do remember, give us a call, 713-526-5738. But you know what time is it? Or it is? Do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay. I tried, Shannon, I tried to give it a sort of a tantalizing name so people didn't really know where I was coming from. So the blog of the week has the name, Should We Stop Moralizing and Give the Police a Break? And I know when I wrote that title, all the folks who know or saw some of the stuff I wrote says, what is wrong with that dude for give him a break? Well, hear me out, guys. Here it goes. America seem to be falling into two camps. There are many gradations of these, but they can be delineated rather easily. The first camp rightfully believes that there is a serious problem with policing in America. The second camp believes police basically can do no wrong and that citizens must simply acquiesce to these public servants. Luckily, it seems like the vast majority believe the former and not the latter. For the first time in history, police are under scrutiny. It is no longer a he said, she said scenario where the truth is always biased towards the police. There are ample video and audio data for many police encounters. This is a good thing. This is a necessary thing. It is well documented that society at large is filled with a populace with preconceived misconceptions of other groups, ethnicities, and the socioeconomically deprived. Many in society act on those with regards to real friendships, business relationships, assumptions of criminality, blame, and much more. The police reflect these same biases. The police is a reflection of society. The difference is that cops are enforcers. They are the first entry into deciding criminality. Their actions in the past were never questioned by those that matter. Again, their actions in the past were never questioned by those that matter. What I mean, you matter, but you know what? You don't. The people that matters are the ones who've always let every or most of them off. Yesterday, I took my car in for repairs. The young man who took me home is in the police academy. It is funny that I'm talking about this, and the person who takes me home is somebody who becomes my test case without knowing, of course. After listening to him, it was evident that police culture is a problem. He believed that Eric Casebolt, the police officer that brutalized the 14-year-old girl, was in his right because she did not comply and give police complete control. Hence, listen to the word. He said complete control of the situation without mouthing off. He then prefaced his next statement by saying he is not a racist, his uncle is black, but upon patrolling a pretty rough neighborhood in Houston, police need to behave the way they did. What was most concerning is that he thought Casebolt had the right to use his weapon. He said explicitly, I would have shot them. I allowed this young man to speak his mind without too many interruptions because I wanted him to feel a comfort to express his true beliefs. And I'm going to stop right there in my blog to make a few comments here. One of the biggest issues that we have in society today is very few people actually listen. In other words, as soon as one hears something that makes them react negatively or messes with their beliefs or whatever, they're ready to get into the conversation and they don't immediately leave a chance for further exploration. And I would contend that is one of the issues we have in society today that prevents us from coming to some middle ground because folks don't get a chance to vent themselves and then be corrected themselves. But I continue. He was completely unaware of the racial bias he exuded based on how he defined those predisposed to commit crimes. This young man wasn't about integrating himself into a community. He was policing, but commanding and controlling that community. Again, this young man wasn't about integrating himself into a community he was policing, or rather, this young man wasn't about integrating himself into a community he was policing, but commanding and controlling that community. I do not believe this young man is necessarily representative of all new cadets or even police officers, but his tone and actions in our rather lengthy conversation made it clear that he was entering into policing biased against minorities. He was entering policing believing his badge made him above those he was policing. Should he not realize that those he is policing or the ones paying him for the privilege of policing them? After writing several blog posts on the pool party fiasco in McKinney, Texas, and posting it on Facebook, many of the comments made it quite evident that until society changes, police won't change. A well-written article by Daily Kos's Grizzard is a must-read. He explains a certain reconciliation that has yet to occur in America. In his article, his attempt is not to blame or condone Eric Casebolt for his irrational fear and brutality, but to explain it. To police, it may seem like open season on them. To get back at the communities, many have even stopped proactively policing. It is as if they want a crime wave in order to have society believe the brutality of many of their officers were justified. The reality is that we need the police. More importantly, the police work for us. We pay them to provide us all a security service. We hire police out of society's pool. As such, they reflect society. It is our peers in our society who have continuously given bad cops the benefit of the doubt and set them free to continue their bad deeds. The reality is, until society changes, cops will maintain the status quo. Folks, this is KPFT 90.1 FM. The telephone number is 713-526-5738. I would love to hear from you. The lines are all open and free. Not one call is on. And as I was talking to Shannon back there in the green room, I said, I want folks to call and discuss this stuff because, I can go on for 10 hours talking about this stuff, but I don't want to I don't want to have a monologue. I want folks to give me a call and tell me their thoughts about, I don't care what side of the aisle you fall on with respect to what you think about it, but I want to hear folks' opinion. 713-526-5738. All lines are open. 713-526-5738. Let me hear what you think about it. Now, I'll tell you something. It is interesting about what has occurred in McKinney because I wrote another blog last night actually because it had just come across while I was actually I was supposed to be writing my piece for Daily Kos last night and I didn't quite get to it. And why didn't I get to it? I didn't get to it because a little thing came across the screen that said, "Did you know that the guy who actually called the cops on these kids, that he was actually a felon?" And I was like, well, then no big deal. He's a felon. I mean, he probably did his time, all that good stuff. But I wanted to hear from him. But anyhow, I have some calls. So let me go ahead and take the first one. I can't see it on the screen. Folks, if you're calling, Shannon is going to be taking your call shortly. Just let her keep flying. Shannon, who do I have on? Okay, Mark. Come on in, Mark. How you doing, sir? Okay, Mark, you're on. Mark, come on in.
I'm here.
Talk to me, Mark.
I just wanted to call him a comment. I happen to be a law enforcement officer. I have been for almost 30 years.
Excellent. First of all, I want to thank you for calling because I want to hear that side as well. So let me hear you, sir.
Hey, I agree that recent events have been very polarizing, and I think there's wrong and right on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one to say that everything is every person who's a police officer is going to be a good police officer because that's the same as any profession.
Right.
But there's not some secret conspiracy to undermine any one race or group or anything of that nature either.
Okay.
I've never evidenced anything of that nature in all my time in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree. I agree society has to change, but I don't see a whole lot of people giving a whole lot of answers on how this is going to happen.
I am so glad you said that. What is your name again, sir? Because I don't have my screen up. What was your name?
Mark.
Mark, let me tell you, folks, if you need to call back 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738, we're taking calls and there's still lines open. Yeah, let me tell you something, Mark. First of all, I'm glad that you said that, and it's interesting that you said that because I wrote the blog earlier today, and I had a response from a woman in Kingwood, and she pretty much said, I agree with all of this, but, for all the comments I'm hearing, everybody is commenting, but nobody is providing any solutions. You said you're still a cop, is that correct?
I am.
Good. Having a cop on, I think, is actually an essential part of the equation as well. But let me tell you a quick little story. Okay? And it goes as follows. I got stopped by. First of all, I'm a black guy, and normally, I'll be honest with you. Whenever I get stopped by a cop, I am actually somewhat fearful. It comes with the territory with who I am. Okay? Now, that said, I was stopped here in town, and, I did all the things right. I put my hands on the steering wheel. I waited for the cop to come. I asked him for permission to go to my wallet to give him went through the whole scenario, and you could see the smirk and smile on his face, which was, I think he thought I was doing it to the extreme, but I was really serious in the way I was doing it. But anyway, he was a very nice man. He gave me, he told me, he let me off afterwards and said that he noticed that I didn't do anything that was really whatever. He just wanted to kind of alert me. But after having that interaction with him, I stopped him again. I said, hey, dude, I want to take a picture with you because you were the epitome of professionalism in the way you handled your policing. I wrote a blog about it, and after I wrote the blog about it, the police officer got a commendation right here in HPD, got a commendation into his file. I always think it is essential that folks see both sides or several sides of the story. And I think one of the reasons I have shows like this, one of the reasons I blog the things that I blog, is to let folks know that we can't all simply say cops are bad. But we also have to be ensured. We also need to be assured that when we have those bad cops, that you, sir, my dear friend, you break that what a lot of people consider that thin blue line. You follow what I'm saying? And weed out those that have wronged quite a few people. And there are those there. You probably won't see it because of who you are, but several of us see it. Your response?
Well, I think there's no other group that wants to root out bad actors more than the police department does. Mm-hmm. I don't want to work with people that are breaking the law or doing things that are illegal. That's the kind of stuff that makes the news, that makes the other, 99 out of 100 look bad.
Right.
One crazy act can negate 500 good ones. You had an interaction with the police. I didn't see that making the national news.
Well, my interaction actually went viral.
Something bad will. Something bad is going to make the news as opposed to something good. Is what I'm getting at.
Yes. You know what they say: if it bleeds, it leads. What I try to do, however, is different. The new media is social media. The new media is things on the outside. I mean, we're going to do these things on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, all these things. And that is I like to call that my domain. And that is where I try to put these things out. I want to ensure that things are balanced. I want to ensure that people get the right story. And I want to ensure that people know, yes, as we try to root out those bad cops, to remember that not only there are good cops, but to remember that we also do need cops. So you sound like one of the good ones, sir. So I appreciate you calling in, and I appreciate what you've had to say. I know a whole lot of Houston listeners hear what you have to say. And just that a police officer has called the show and made that statement, I think speaks volumes. So is there anything else you want to add, sir?
We're not all bad guys. And, to be honest with you, I don't think as a group we're not mad at anybody. It's just, cops are still going to get and do their job every day, regardless of the media, regardless of what else goes on. There's still going to be good cops that get out there and do what they need to do to protect the public. And regardless if it's good press or bad press is out there, they're still going to go to work.
Well, look, let me tell you something. You tell your cop friends to listen to Politics Done Right, because we are all allies and we are all trying to make this a better city and a better country, my friend. Okay?
All right, so you have a great day.
You have a great day now. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, let's go to Tyler, who wants to talk about informing about children. Come on in, Tyler. Talk to me.
Hey, how are you?
All right.
Awesome. I want to say thank you to the cop that just called in. That was awesome of him.
Yes, I think it was awesome too, and you see, look. As Elaine told me in the blog when she answered the post, she said, "Yeah, everybody they're all screaming at each other, but what we need are solutions because ultimately we must have the good cops, we must have citizens who believe in who they are, and it's happening." So anyway, make your point, my dear friend.
I just wanted to say, hopefully for people that are listening, if they have kids, that stuff like this is going to continue to happen, because there are good eggs and bad eggs. And, when situations like this happens, if kids aren't informed and they, out of fear, act irrationally,
right,
then bad situations are going to continue to happen.
Right.
We have a system. You get their badge number. You call these things in. I mean, sure, there are special cases
right,
where obviously that's not going to happen, but, don't think everyone's just out to get you, because I know too, I get shaky and I get fearful when I get pulled over too, and I don't even know how to act in front of cops, and it's something we need to work on,
right,
because if we don't, this is just going to continue to happen,
right. Well, let me tell you something, Tyler. I was talking to Shannon earlier in the green room, and I told her that I learned something from a post that I read on Daily Kos, and that is policemen have more latitude than most people realize, and that is because of the job that they are doing, they are given more latitude. In other words, it is what they perceive that dictate their actions, and if their perception is what folks call reasonable, doesn't matter what they do, they get off. Now, as I was talking to Shannon, I said, yeah, but we have to change people's perception, because if folks look at me and if a cop is not I want to say culturized, if you will. I don't even know if that's a word. But if he is not used to seeing guys who look like me, and because of that case, I put the fear of God in that guy for just being who I am, and he kills me. If his fear is deemed reasonable under circumstances, doesn't matter that I'm the most innocent man on the planet, he gets off. So there's a lot of training that has to be done, not only on the side of the citizens, but on the side of cops as well. Because I'll be honest with you, that article was a neat article that said, this guy may really have been fearful. It was an irrational fear. It was an irrational fear.
Yep.
But,
yep.
If he is, that just says, and that's where the guy also spoke about, in our country, we really need to have some real reconciliation here, where everybody realizes that the stereotypes are just that, stereotypes. Yeah. I could go into numbers and all of that, but I want to give Sarah a case comment. Is there anything else you want to add, sir, before we go to Sarah?
No, that was it. You're absolutely right. It was good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing your show.
Thank you, Tyler. You have a great day, my friend.
You too.
Okay, Sarah, come on in. How you doing, Sarah?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. You know what? Most of my callers are generally guys. I am so happy to have female callers. So before I let you answer, I'm going to put the shout out here. 713-526-5738. Most of the lines are still open. 713-526-5738. And I want to say, ladies, where are you? Remember, we're also talking about your kids now. What is this thing? The kids always say, hey, Ma. Let's hear what you have to say about this issue. 713-526-5738. And, of course, don't let that stop the guys from calling in. Okay, Sarah, talk to me.
All right. First, I'd like to say thank you so much for doing this. It's very important. And the only way to get change is for us to actually talk about it.
Right.
I'm calling about the question that you had.
Mm-hmm.
We all keep talking about the problem. So what is it that we do to affect change? I'm a physician, and a lot of times before any of my patients can actually do any change, they have to accept that there is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that across this country, we have to get to a place where, we all accept what the issue is,
right,
without getting defensive.
Right.
I think both sides are at fault, It's important to listen, first of all. For instance, if one of your children says, I'm being bullied at school.
Right.
Well, that's their experience. Listen to them. Don't say, well, there are a lot of kids that aren't bullied, so you don't really have a problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So I think at first there has to be listening. People need to listen and not get defensive.
Right.
And those who are talking about their experience and their problems need to not, point blame and just, make people feel bad. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is to talk about issues. The point is to listen to the other side.
Right.
Try to understand what each other's experience is.
Mm-hmm.
And once we start talking and identifying what the real problems are and actually accepting that there is a problem, we might be willing to move towards change.
I am glad you said that, because you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And the thing, one of the reasons I do the show the way I do the show, and I don't know if you heard the blog of the week that I read. The show starts with a blog of the week, and I try to kind of give a direction of where the show is going to go. And what I said is, what happens a lot of times is we do a lot of talking and a lot of us don't do a lot of listening. I don't care who I'm listening to. Even if the person is really getting on my nerves and getting to the point that I want to, I try to listen, because a lot of times it's the nuances that's missed that you can jump on to make, to allow to get into the point where you can make that change. So you're exactly right about that.
And there's one other thing. I always say, no matter what someone's complaint is, their experience is real.
Right.
Whether or not it's based on real facts, you have to listen, because sometimes there are misunderstandings.
Right.
Right?
Right,
but
exactly.
You have to listen to that person's experience, because the way they feel about it is real. That's what they experience. And the only way that you get to a good point is where you get to understand where your differences are. And I think we need to listen to each other, accept that there is a problem, and then we might be able to start moving towards a different place.
Absolutely.
The whole society issue.
Absolutely. And I tell you that I've learned that. Okay, I can say that I've learned that over time. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's something that we have to do. And for those who are not yet doing it, I blog a lot at the coffeepartyusa.com Facebook page, where we get a chance to interact. We reach out, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 million folks every week, and trying to interact with a whole lot of folks where everybody wants to flame is difficult. But I tell you something that I found that works. When that flamer continues to flame and all you have for them is coolness, somehow the change occurs, but you have to be disciplined enough to do that. As far as solution to this issue, I think police officers have to realize that there are several groups within our society right now that fear them. I am a black man. I'm a professional, and when I get stopped by a cop, I am fearful. That's just the reality. Okay? Now, the cops, there's a reason for that. It's not out of the blue that comes into me. That has been my reality. Right. Now, I act on that reality, and what I try to tell other folks like me is be cognizant of that, but do not allow that to rule you. Play the rules locally, handle incidences later. But we have to be able to teach these things to our kids. We have to be able to do that. But the officers themselves, the training, if you heard the blog post that I wrote, that I read earlier, I actually showed where cops, the culture itself, also has to change. Right. It has to change, because as a reflection of us, they carry the same biases that we have. So we must work on both. Is there anything else you want to say, Doctor, so I can get to the other person?
I think you're right on. That's it.
Thank you very much.
And I want to say thank you to the cop who called in. It's very important what the cops do. In fact, I called them out to my apartment the other day because someone broke in, and they were very helpful. So
absolutely,
we need them. We don't need to criminalize them, but at the same time, we need to work on how they take care of us.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Thank you very much, Sarah. You're absolutely right. And cops that are listening, give us a call if you have something else to add to the show.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mary, come on in, Mary. How are you doing?
Hi there. I'm well. How are you?
Excellent. Talk to me, Mary. I heard you're a police officer.
I'm a police dispatcher.
Yeah, talk to me.
So we have a vested interest in keeping both the policemen safe and the public safe. We have a responsibility to respond to the public's needs and to their calls for help.
Right.
So you were talking earlier about solutions, and I really do think that the solution to most issues in this world is education. I think maybe there needs to be some sort of high school program taught about how to teach people how to interact with the police so that it doesn't trigger any sort of response. And I know that sounds heavily biased towards the police side of things.
Let me interrupt you a second, officer.
Sure.
You're correct. It is biased, but when it comes to the life of my daughter, when it comes to the life of everything, I rather a biased solution to a problem initially. But there's one thing that I want to add to that, and this is now on the part of the police officers.
Sure.
I do think that it is essential. Remember that in the post earlier, I spoke about biases that society has, and the same biases that society has is the biases that will be in cops. It is imperative, I think, that the cop culture be adjusted to take that into account.
I think you're absolutely correct about the level of awareness going on in police groups and policing websites. They talk amongst themselves, that sort of thing. I think there needs to be some sort of awareness about what the public's fears are and what they deal with on a regular basis. And I think if we can start to connect on those two levels, I think we can maybe start to come to some sort of solution that will keep both the public and officers safe.
Absolutely.
And I think really that's what it comes down to.
Look, like I said, we need the officers, and some of the most aggrieved communities, some of the communities that have most... by the way, Shannon, I can actually see it on the screen now. Yeah. I can see it on the screen now. But anyway, some of the communities that need policing the most are the ones that are the most aggrieved, and some that have the most problems with police officers. So I would give my humble opinion, and that's just it. I'm not an officer or anything like that or experienced, but I would say community policing, something that I think was tried in Houston before, but I just believe it is important that officers become more a part of the community so that they are seen as who they really are, who we really want them to be, as opposed to us versus them.
Right. And I don't think it's necessarily an us versus them mentality. I think a lot of police officers these days are interested in taking the community policing route.
Right.
I see a lot of officers who donate their time to charity causes and who get involved in local schools. And I don't really think it's so much an us versus them mentality that a lot of them have. The majority of them are really good cops and really have the public's best interest at heart, whether or not the public really believes that or not. I do think that they run into an issue where the public is maybe not as cooperative as they want to portray themselves in the media. In the media, a lot of times you hear where the public is, we were innocent, we didn't do anything wrong, and then it comes to find out later on in the story, once the story fully comes out, they were somehow not as cooperative as they initially portrayed themselves to be.
Right. Now,
and I think another problem with the social media thing is that people are so quick to jump on the story as soon as it comes out, and the outrage hits, and next thing you know, people are getting worked up. And sometimes rightfully so.
Right.
But a lot of times it seems like, especially here lately, about, 70% of the time it's unjustified outrage.
Well, let me just say one.
And that only starts to complicate issues and to increase the divide.
Now, let me tell you, Mary, I don't doubt that at all. Now, let me tell you, I'm one of those who jump on the issue as far as on the social media bandwagon because I'm a social media fiend, if you will. But one of the things I always make sure to have.
I love it too.
Right. I make sure to do one thing. One of the reasons I wrote that positive blog about the real good encounter I had with a cop is so that, first of all, to add to my credibility that I'm not attempting to bash cops, which I understand that we do need.
And thank you for that, because not everybody reaches out and speaks well when good things do happen, or positive interactions do occur.
I do both, and not only that, when I'm writing about the negative cops, I also make sure to reference my past positive experiences and negative experiences. And the reason why I do that is because while we are bashing the cops today, back there in several neighborhoods, if I feel that cops begin to do what they're doing in New York or Ferguson or these other places where they have reduced their policing, it does nobody any good.
Absolutely.
So my thing is let's solve the problem for real. And I don't have any bones to pick with anybody other than we move positive. But Mary, I got to go to the next call.
Sure.
So I appreciate you calling in as a cop.
Thank you so much for what you do, and thank you so much for bringing this conversation up.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Let's go to Steve. Steve, you're on.
Actually, it's Dave.
Oh, Dave? Okay, Dave, come on in. That's okay. Talk to me.
That's fine. Well, a couple of things.
Yes.
Number one, as far as the police are concerned, and first of all, I'm a white guy. I'm middle-aged white guy, and like you, even if I see a cop, I have the fear of God in me as well because it's just a natural reaction.
Right.
My feeling is they've gotten, in my opinion, I think they've gotten away from the creed of serve and protect to now harass and bully.
Okay.
And I've been pulled over before, and if I say something that's even slightly skewed as smart aleck or whatever, they turn on you.
Let me stop you right there, Dave, because that is something I wish Mary was back on to talk about, because that is something that was mentioned a lot on my Facebook page. Okay, and that is. If somehow they feel like you've gotten fresh with them, or somehow that they want that
completely misconstrued by them,
right? And that reaction, and that is where we have to talk about training again. That you're not God. If you listen to my earlier blog, the guy that was in the academy. That is the way he came across as well. It's like, when I am there, I am in control, and it's supposed to be full control. And by the way, I do agree with him to some extent that when the cop is in the fold, authority, the control must be there for some sort of an order. I mean, I think all of us would agree, but it's how do you take control? It's how do you establish order? You can establish order with humanity, or you can do it the way that
with brute force,
the way that was done in McKinney.
More often than not.
Right. And what I'm saying is, the goal that I think we should all have is to change things the way they are. I was ecstatic to have several officers calling into the show, because one of the things that we get out of this is that it's not a us versus them. It is, for those bad eggs that you have in there, change them. It is your responsibility to change it. You work for us. Anything else? The lines are full now. So anything else, Steve, so I can get to another line that you want to add?
Well, it's Dave again.
Dave, sorry, I'm reading the screen.
The other thing is much like, here's an analogy, much like firemen, the firemen are at the firehouse waiting for an emergency, and then they go out and respond.
Right.
Whereas the police are out essentially looking for trouble. Okay? I think that there should be precincts set up in areas that are concentrated where there's a higher crime or whatever.
No, that's a solution.
They should be in a set area instead of going out rummaging around looking to make somebody's day bad.
Right. That is a solution. Earlier Elaine had said, everybody's just talking but no solutions. Sir, that's a solution. Let me get to another caller, sir, but thank you very much for calling in. Keep listening. Let's talk about this stuff. Okay? You have a wonderful day, sir. Okay, let's go to Joseph. Come on in.
How you doing today?
All right, talk to me, Joseph.
Yeah, the police brutality and the responses that people are called to them is really what concerning, though. The police wants to establish absolute control the way you indicated earlier.
Yes, sir.
And it behooves us to respond accordingly by being submissive. And so long as it does not infringe on your rights.
Exactly.
Be civil about it. Be submissive. Don't be confrontational. Because there are certain ways you might respond to a police officer that threatens them.
Right.
And if they sense any kind of threat, they are probably going to be defensive. And defensiveness might lead to something else. It might escalate to a very serious situation that both parties might regret.
Joseph, I mean, I think that is what you said is correct. That there's a thin line between that and when when they begin to overdo. Now, I think I cut the 7-minute video into a 2-minute video to show two types of policing from the same group of police officers that responded to McKinney, and you had two guys who appropriately felt the necessary threat and how they dealt with humanity with the people, and then you had an officer that was a complete brute. Now, I'll be honest with you. I would not have given the officer a chance to throw me down because I would have been, personally myself, would have been more submissive. But that's not what we teach in America. I mean, it's amazing. I'm from Central America, Panama. We know in Panama, we don't mess with cops because you get your head cracked, period.
I'm from Nigeria, too. You don't mess with them.
You don't mess with cops. America is a different country. America is a country of freedom. America is a country that says you have all these rights. But at the same time, you're putting that out, you're somehow having to have a different way with dealing with police. Joseph, I need to go to another call, my dear friend. Do you have any quick other thing you want to add before I move on?
Not at all, except that one has to be very careful because life is something that we all treasure.
Absolutely.
And then if we keep questioning the police officers, there are certain questions that are thrown at police officers that make them peevish and want to make them reactive to situations.
Well, good.
So if we can comport ourselves, we'll be fine. Thank you.
Hey, Joseph, thank you for that call and good wisdom, my dear friend. Thank you. Jessica, you're on.
Thank you.
I think it's, Jessica. Okay, number 2. Thank you. Jessica, how are you doing today?
Fine, yourself?
Fine. Talk to me, my dear friend.
Okay, well, as a teacher, black teacher at that, I don't know if a lot of people are aware or don't want to remember, but back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, I'm an 80s baby, 90s, our parents, our grandparents, this is as far as the black community, we were trained, we were spoken to about how to react towards the police, especially in the 1950s and 60s, as you can see, because you have the automatic, stereotypical, like all minorities, you know, or poor people, thought about you if you live in a certain area, of course, or you're in a certain area. What I've seen now with our youth, the black youth, the Hispanic youth, is that their parents, or this new generation of parents, they're not educating their children that, hey, you must do better. You must learn how to be quiet, listen, and be aware. Do not go towards trouble. Like the pool party situation, I can clearly tell that those parents did not speak to their children, didn't understand that their lives are at stake every day when they go out.
Jessica, can I stop you for 1 second?
Wait.
Okay.
So the young lady who kept, pounding her fist on my mother, if her mother would have spoken to her to let her know, hey, your feelings, your demeanor at this time with authority, because they're people too, cops are people too. You don't know what happened with their day. They have crazy situations, so they may feel a certain way. You must be able to be calm. You must show calmness. Calmness. You must do that. And or go away from the confrontation. But go away, but stand still close enough where you can see. You do not come closer and then surround the officer. That's putting him in a state of panic.
Now, I don't disagree with you there, because like I think if you listened to me earlier, that's exactly what I said. I am very compliant when I am around a cop. And I also did mention to folks, I'm from Central America, where you get your head cracked open if you ever address the cop.
Yeah, but see, we're older. We're talking about 15, 13, 14.
But here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to say, though, and where I talk about education, Jessica, in as much as you are right that we should be teaching our kids to be less confrontational, less mouthy, etc. You're absolutely right. The fact that it's only our kids in general, minority kids, that, look, we have to do it. I don't disagree. But I live in Kingwood, Texas, and I watch these kids and their interactions with cops. It is a completely different dynamic than it is when it happens in South Park, Texas, or Third Ward, Houston, or any one of these places. Look, it is our reality. And I rather keeping my kid alive by saying, be submissive for this one time. But what we do need to do as well is train our cops, because the incident with all those kids out there was never a threatening incident. You know that. I know that.
Of course, but history tells you, because it's cynical. History is cynical. You can see it will repeat itself.
Look, we're not, Jessica. We're not disagreeing at all. We're not disagreeing at all. I mean, we're in agreement. But I do think we need to also push that message that the cops need to be more educated and more integrated with the community, so that immediately a black or a Hispanic or a Chinese person doesn't look any more fearful to them than a white person. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, that is true. And then another point is that the fact that, that the police training is still, just like civilians, you have to be mindful of what you say.
Right.
Like the other, Stephen, I believe it, excuse me if I got your name wrong, he was also fearful, too, as a white man.
Yes.
Because if you say a certain thing or a certain demeanor or tone, they think you're just getting snarky with them.
Hey, Jessica, I have 15 minutes left, and I have like all the lines up. So, I mean, what you're saying, I agree with, but thank you for calling me. And let's go to Monty. Monty, you're number 3. Yes. How you doing, Monty?
I'm fine, sir.
Talk to me, sir.
Yes, I'd like to make a point, and I'm not, please, like I said, this is my perception of it and my reality of the situation.
Yes.
And this is why this movement is having so much trouble gaining traction here in America, is because there are a lot of people that are quote-unquote white who have experienced the same reality that these people are experiencing.
I'm glad you said that, because I want to address that, but go ahead.
No, and like I said, my experience, I grew up in a part of Houston where it was the majority of folks that lived there were black folks and Mexican folks. And my family when my uncle was the victim of a home invasion robbery, we received no special treatment or any such thing from the police.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the job, it's more, to me, people are not seeing that this is more of an economic thing. If you educate yourself and you know your rights as far as being searched and what your rights are prior to being detained, this will stop a lot of things. I educate myself on that. I have stopped 2 illegal search and seizures of my vehicles because looking at me, the police think this guy, long hair, unshaven, tattoos, well, he probably doesn't know the law.
Right.
That if people will go out and arm themselves with knowledge, and they can diffuse a lot of these things, and that and it goes. I'm with you. Everyone here said the right thing, that it goes both ways.
Right.
The public and we have a lot of people here. Sir, yes, I have a lot of calls.
But before that, I do want to tell you something, okay? Because first of all, I like where you're coming from, but I do want you to do something. I mean, I am absolutely sure that you are sure of what you're saying with the treatment that you get, okay? But one of the things that you just said there, as far as your rights and you were able to diffuse things because of who you are. You're correct about that, but please, and I don't have the time to go into this completely, but I need you to go to my site, actually, egbertowillies.com, and do a search on white privilege. And I'm not saying this for all my white listeners. It's not some crazy thing. It's important that you understand that concept. It is not just
I understand
crazy.
The concept, and I'm familiar with it. And in my experience, sir, it is. I've never experienced.
I understand that.
It is a myth like a unicorn.
That's why I want you to. Hey, friend, that's why I want you to read it, because I think this person puts it very well, that you would actually understand it the way it needs to be understood. It's important.
Egberto, I'll definitely take a look at that, and I'll let you get to the other call.
You have a great one, Vanti. Take care.
You too, sir.
Hey,
yes,
Dawn,
sir.
You're on next, number 6. Dawn, how are you doing today,
how
Dawn?
are you?
Excellent, Dawn. Talk to me.
Good. Did you see the thing with the 2 little girls that had their lemonade stand closed down by police in Overton?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it real quickly.
That is literally what it was. 2 little girls, 10 years old, running a lemonade stand. Police came along and closed them down because they didn't have a food permit.
Wow, that's silly, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. And Overton, I've been there, has like one stoplight, but it blinks. It's not even actually working. And so it's tiny, but I'm thinking, in Overton, you don't have anything better that police officers could be doing.
Right.
So taking that back to this whole concept of broken windows policing, these tiny little things that you have to jump on people for because somehow it makes your neighborhood safer. I'm not convinced that actually works.
It doesn't work.
Turns out to look like harassment.
Now, Dawn, they've done studies, and they've proven from those studies that it really does not work. If you doubt it, immediately after the incident in New York, when broken windows was actually sort of stopped, guess what happened to the crime rate? For a while went down. There's no real correlation between broken windows policing and real policing, and both of us know what real policing is all about. Being a part of the community, and if you're a part of the community, nobody wants bad things to happen. When things are starting to happen, the community is your ears. So you know that. I know that.
I'm just saying that I'm again about Overton, a largely white community.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that in any in any white neighborhood, it may be that's a broken window, but I'm telling you that's different in communities of color.
Right.
Their broken windows happen much more frequently, it seems like.
Absolutely. But Dawn, as you heard before, I'm filled up. So look, I appreciate your call. Please keep listening and please keep calling. And by the way, today I got a lot of ladies. I'm so happy. Okay, let's go. Thank you for calling, Dawn. Joe, you're next.
I'm mid-50s, grew up here in Houston.
Yes, sir.
And have been harassed by the police numerous times.
Mm-hmm.
They get right in your face and scream at you like they're your parent.
Mm-hmm.
They threaten you. I mean, I've seen them disrespect my mother. It's been going on so long that the majority of the public don't trust them, don't respect them, are tired of them walking around and bullying everybody.
Joe, I think that let me ask you something now. That's what has happened to you and your family. Give me a solution right now.
For one thing, start treating people like you would want people to treat your daughter
and
or your mother or your sister.
How do we get there?
With respect.
Okay.
Well, obviously, you're going to have to talk with the cops to get there.
Right. Well, I'm running low on times, and I have 3 more calls that I got to get in. So I'm going to tell you something, Joe, and we'll talk. This was such a hectic topic. We're going to have to do it again. But let's start here. Let's remember that when the city council and all these guys are having their meeting, we all do things at the local level. And let's start being a part of it and start doing that. So I'm going to let you go, Joe, because I want to talk to you more, but I got too much to handle right now. So we'll talk next week. Okay, brother?
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Joy, come on in.
Hi. I'm glad you're talking about this. I actually think this is one of the solutions that you are talking about. We have to have open forums where people of different opinions literally get to say what they have to say, whether we like it or not.
Exactly.
I totally agree.
Exactly.
That, we do not do that enough. How many town forums have we had different communities actually invited into one community at the town forum?
Right. I think you're absolutely right. But that is how we start with solutions, right?
Mm-hmm.
We start by determining what the problem is, and then as Elaine said in my, when she wrote that on my piece, she wrote a long piece saying, we need to really start talking solutions and just not keep talking past each other. And what I love about the calls that I had today is I had calls from cops, I had calls from people who all kinds of folks who had all kind of opinions, and I think for all those folks that are listening to the show today, they would have gotten something out of it. Anything else, Joy, that you want to add before I move on?
Yes, I'm going to try to do it quickly. I have 3 things.
Uh-huh.
Number one, the difference between the cops over time, not in brutality, but in purpose.
Right.
So having the PO turn into from peace officer to police officer.
Love that.
Okay?
Yes.
Number 2, this is for the listeners, those who feel that only education is so important. But because there is a dynamic here, we cannot forget it. In the civil rights movement, African Americans, yes, they did what they needed to do. They rallied. I
only can give you 15 more seconds. So tell me real quick, Joy.
Okay, so the power dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the one with the power, you are the one who has to make the shift happen. So
Great.
People can complain, and they need to let people know what's happening. But the
Joy?
Police, power must have a shift.
That was excellent, and thank you very much for calling. Please keep listening and please keep calling. Philip, you're next.
Okay.
Philip, number 5. Go ahead, Philip.
All right, I'm right. Hey, I just want to weigh in just on a couple of things. I just want to talk about what I actually saw in that video.
Okay, real quick,
what
please.
My eyes saw.
Okay.
I saw a white cop who was basically going after everybody of color and not doing anything to anybody who was white.
You know, I mean, first of all, that's what happened.
Also, this is an adult. We talk about education. This is an adult who was using profanity at teenagers.
Right.
There are teenagers who had on swimsuits, so you can't talk about somebody hiding a gun or I thought he had a gun.
Right.
You know, so, but yet he still drew his gun.
Philip,
this is scary.
You're
stuff.
correct. You're correct. I have to go to the next call because I want to fool everybody. You're absolutely.
I just regret I got to call in so late. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Bruce, you're up next. Bruce, line number 2. Bruce.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, quickly for me, please, Bruce. Thank you.
I didn't hear the whole show, but one problem, I don't know if you mentioned or not, is a lot of cops and firemen have a problem with roid rage. The ones that look like weightlifters using steroids.
Okay. I hear you, Bruce. Let me tell you, Bruce, is there something else that you want to add to that before I jump to the next call?
No, I just want to throw that in.
You're a good man. Thank you, buddy. Keep listening. Keep calling. Let's go to the next caller, who is number... Okay, go ahead. I guess your number, whatever. Come on in, caller. Last caller. Hello, sir.
Yes.
Real quick, sir.
No, it's not a sir.
Yeah, go, ma'am. Sorry.
Sorry, yeah. I'm just calling because I didn't receive something, so I'm calling this number to try to find out why I didn't get something in the mail.
Okay, call the business line. That's the 4,000. It ends in 4,000. So
call
that. Yes,
okay.
ma'am. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, folks, this has been a great show. We lost a few callers. Well, it looked like we may be able to get one more in real quickly. Let's throw it in. Oh, not a call? Okay, great. Anyhow, we had a ton of callers, and we just had to drop a few. Please forgive us for that. We'll have this subject on again. It seems like it's a very important subject. We had the officers call in to make their case. We had folks who've been aggrieved by cops. We have folks who think that we should be behaving differently when we are confronted by cops. Altogether, I think what we've been trying to do is come up with solutions and how to make this a positive thing, not just us against them, but something like how do we not coexist? Because it's not about coexistence. It's about how we have to live together in a secure world. So, folks, this has been a great show. This is Politics Done Right. Thank you for listening, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled E-G-B-E-R-T-O. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.